So hey guys, welcome back. Stan here from Rocky Creek. We're here in one of our pig pen areas. This is the one where, for those of y'all that have been following us, this is where Henry was when we had our unfortunate incident where a branch fell on him and ultimately killed him. And so I got to tear apart this pen for numerous reasons. Number one is going to be obviously what happened to him. We have a lot of limbs that are dropping fairly often anytime we get bad weather from here. So we want to address some of that concern before we move anything else in here. But also just to my left, down this direction, is where our garden is. And as we get later into the summer months, heading into fall, the way the sun rises and sets, we actually lose most of the sunlight onto that garden, usually by around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So we want to also, once we get this stuff out of the way, really bro, that was way too loud. So what we want to do is we are going to end up removing several of these trees that are in this area to allow more sunlight. Really? But we're going to end up removing some of these trees to allow more sunlight to get there over a greater length of time. And the other issue we predominantly have all oaks on our property, a combination of red and white oaks. Well, around this time too, the acorns are falling like crazy on the garden too. And so although I really like having the acorns on the property, I don't want them constantly falling all over the plants and on me and all that. So we want to try to thin some of this stuff out. The good news is most of what we have can be repurposed. All of the fencing I can reuse. All the posts are in still good shape, so we're going to save those. The hog panels that I have here we'll be able to reuse, and both structures currently within this pen we plan to reutilize as well. The hardest thing is going to be figuring out how we're going to move our very big structure, but we'll cross that bridge down the road. But this is going to be a process, one step at a time. Step number one is going to be to remove all these staples for all the fencing, get the fencing off, and get it rolled up. So that's where we're going to start right now. So y'all could hear him crowing, but Mr. Rooster right there, a lot of you all gave name suggestions for him, and I'll go ahead and officially tell you that we are going to call him Bruce. That was some of the suggestions we received, and I really like that. And you might ask, why Bruce? Some people mentioned Bruce Wayne for Batman. So that rooster's name now is old Bruce the Roost. That's what we're going to go with. So that's going to be Bruce. He's been doing pretty well. He is very loud. He is by far the loudest and most crowing rooster I've ever had here on the property. But he's a beautiful bird, so we're hoping he'll be here to stay. So he's kind of been doing really well. He's on alert, and he really only gets to crowing real heavily anytime I come down here or other people come around. So he's on alert, but he hasn't been aggressive. He's just more vocal, but not really going after anybody. So if we can maintain that, I think he'll be here to stay. So this is the tool that I'm going to use to remove the staples. I really don't know the name of it. It's just a fence tool, and you kind of got different parts. You got this part right here, which does really good at grabbing inside the staples, and then this part gives you kind of like a rocking motion to help get it out. This piece right here, if the staple's in really tight, I've been able to hook it, pound this part with a hammer, and that's been able to help pry it initially till I can come back right here. And then this piece as well, I've used just like as a hammer sort of to pound it in. Now, I'm not the most experienced with this. This is one of the cheaper versions, and as you can see, it's rusted, but for what small homestead or mini farm we have, it's been fine. It's been very cost efficient, gets the job done. But people with much more experience can probably tell you much more about this. I've just kind of learned by myself and trial and error, but I'll show you how I remove a staple real quick utilizing them. So you come into your staple and you squeeze it, and if you can't quite get in, sometimes if you wiggle it, you can get a good bite on it, and then from there you can just kind of work each direction, and it helps to start pulling the staple out of the post. I'm trying to hold the camera and do it for you, but you can see that's how it pulls it out. Now, I did use barbed staples, so it will chew up the 2x4 a little bit, but 2x4 will still be plenty useful. But yeah, so we got to do this about, I don't know, 100 more times. We'll see. All right guys, so I wasn't going to record all of it, but we have now, I'm pretty sure, removed every staple from here all the way down to there, all the way down to there, and then to there, which is the section that you saw me do. A little piece right there is just another piece of hog panel. We'll take that off at the very end. But now that I believe we got them all out, unless there's one I just overlooked, now I need to undo down through here where I've curled the wire around this post and tied it in. And in order to do so, we'll undo it with one of these tools, which if you need these to wind the wire around here to get it tight. If you try to do it by hand without one of these, you will wear your hands out and you won't get it near as tight. So I'm just going to reverse it, use this to get this undone. And then after we get those undone all the way down there, we'll work on trying to roll this up. So trying to undo it was taking way too long. I was boogering the wire up real bad. So for what little bit is wrapped around this post, I actually opted to just use this part right here of the pliers. And I just ended up cutting all the way up this fencing, and it worked out a whole lot faster and smoother. And I maybe lost, I don't know, 10 to 12 inches of fencing this way. And once I pull this post, I'll get the rest of that off of there. But I think this is going to be easy. So now we'll start getting it all laid out. We'll try to get it flat, and then we'll try to see if we can roll it up from there. So hopefully you can see I just took the fence here and I brought it this way. And after I had everything removed, the whole fence just laid pretty flat until you get to that upper corner right there. So now if I can get that far corner behind the building, and if I can wiggle it between the trees and get it straight, hopefully I can get this whole thing laying flat. And I'll work it from rolling it from up down to here. So I'm out of zip ties. So I'm gonna see if I can use two scrap pieces from the part of the fencing that I left on that one post, and see if I can't use it to kind of lock this down a little bit. If I had enough excess on this fence itself, I'd be able to just bend the end pieces, but there's really not much there. So we'll just try this out and see if this will work. I don't have to have it super tight, I just don't want it coming unraveled again. Yeah, I think this will work temporarily till I can get something better. I just don't want it to come undone again. Definitely a lot easier if I was wearing gloves. There we go. Not the prettiest, but it gets the job done. I guess that right there is where years of coaching or doing wrestling and rolling up them mats every day has paid off at some point when it came to my farm fence. You never know when it comes around full circle, but there it is. We got her all rolled up. It's not too bad. Got a bunch of leaves and debris in there, but that won't hurt it none, and that stuff will just dry off and fall off. And I hope to repurpose this, believe it or not, here within the next couple months. So we'll just set it right here near where I have some of my barbed wire spools, and we'll get this last piece of hog panel off. So I had to move the pallet that had the feed barrels on them, and there's a pile of bugs, and look at all them little chickens just going crazy wanting all them little bugs. I know, I'm interrupting y'all's feast. I apologize. Well guys, we've officially been at it for several hours now, even though the video isn't near that long. I didn't think you wanted to watch me take out about 4 million staples. You don't realize how many of those suckers you put in until you got to take them all out. But nonetheless, we got all the fencing torn down, which I felt like was probably going to be my most time consuming part. A lot of these posts here on the front end from where that big limb dropped, they're fairly loose. So I think pulling them up will be fairly easy. Now on the back side, may be a little more difficult, but I'm pretty confident we'll be able to get those out no problem. But in terms of step one, we got it done successfully. We got all the fencing down. Next step will be to start removing all these wooden posts, which we'll do another day. Temperatures aren't too awful bad today. You know, it's about 80 degrees out here, but the humidity is pretty high. We're still suffering from a drought right now, but there is some moisture supposed to push down. So that's kind of got our humidity increased up. So we're hoping and praying that we'll get some rain. It's just been so dry. The creek finally had a little bit of water in it that only lasted for about a week, and then everything was back to being dry, and we probably haven't had a decent rain for at least another 2 weeks now. So it's just one of those summers, but we're chipping away at it. But this is going to be a big project I want to get done, and this is going to be something that we need to get done before we can add some more pigs here to our homestead. So, but on a good note is, you know, I have probably hundreds of dollars of materials here in this area, and that the vast majority of it, pretty much with the exception of the staples, I plan to reutilize in some format here on the homestead. So there's not really any much money lost here. It's really just time that I have to invest to do what I need to do now. So stick with us. We'll show you where we end up going from here. But guys, I hope all y'all been doing well. I appreciate you coming along. For me, here in the Rocky Creek family, we thank you for all your support. Y'all be good, and we'll see you here real soon on one of our next episodes. Thanks guys.